And welcome back, I'm Roger. It's the year 2017, and it's about time we have diversion and proper representation here on this show. So let's welcome another fat bearded white guy. Here's Wrecked.
Hey there.
And today we'll talk about Sonic music. It's been requested to me a lot, and of course we have Sonic Force's brand new songs to address. Now, I feel uncomfortable talking about music since I don't have that much to say about it. It's not really my forte. Same with my regular co-host Luke, who didn't feel comfortable talking about it either. Fortunately, that's why we have Wrecked. Even though most of you people probably don't know him, you might actually know his work, since he's been the writer slash director slash Big the Cat of the Sonic Paradox Sonic Heroes musicals, such as Seaside Denied, actually. So he seems qualified to talk about music.
Sonic, look, there's whales in the ocean.
Let's punch him!
No!
Don't wanna cause a commotion, sort of.
The Heroes musicals are a drop in the bucket for my musical resume. I spent an unhealthily long amount of time studying video game soundtracks, and often compose original game tracks such as this one from an unreleased platformer.
Oh, cool.
I've even composed dramatic scores tied to animation, like the Stomach X OST, or my work on the student film Keith. And of course, I'm behind an original musical based on Undertale called Undersong, with over 40 numbers spanning every genre from jazz to rap to classical to metal.
Okay, you're super qualified.
And I voice act for you.
There's real music to my ears. Sonic music. Despite opinions about Sonic stuff usually going all over the place, if there's one thing most people agree on is that the music is awesome. Sure, people might agree on what specific individual songs, but generally speaking, there's always a truckload of tracks people love. Let's start with the new songs from Sonic Forces.
Together we can show the world what we can do. You are next to me and I'm next to you. Push me on through until the battle's won.
There's a brief reminder what it sounds like, the Sonic Forces main theme. Seems to have an unbalanced reputation. Some like it, some dislike it. I have to admit, I needed some time to get the singing to sound natural with the music underneath. But yeah, I'm loving this. And the second major song release was Infinite's theme. Here's a brief reminder.
With everything you know has come in collision with time rising high, you the scars remain all through. We're finding the ashes.
Fist Bump is a valiant effort to try and combine all of Sonic's past theme styles, with the epic orchestral strings from his world, the anime feel from Sonic Runners, even the rapid tempos of Sonic Unleashed levels, and the gloriously corny teamwork focus from Sonic Heroes. But I wish Hoobastank had written the entire song. It's pretty obvious Douglas Robb was brought in to do a professional with lyrics job on top of a track Otani designed to be instrumental. But it's far from terrible. Infinite's theme is much closer to that genuine adventure feel, with a single team writing both music and lyrics that fully complement each other and give the character an immediately recognizable presence and mood. Overall, the edge is definitely back, and many of the tracks are reminiscent of the adventure era, especially Infinite's theme. But will that edgy music actually accompany a game that deserves it, or is it pandering without substance to the Sonic Adventure fan demographic? Only time will tell what kind of soundtrack truly awaits us for Forces. Hopefully one that joins together as a full product and not just a random assortment of songs.
The Edge is definitely back. You sound like a real reviewer show host weirdo, you know that, right? This is just a dumb show about dumb people. No need for doing that. Well, the thing is, I always thought with Sonic Lost Worlds is that there's a little communication between the separate teams. That the entire game feels like every department of the team worked on their own separate little corner of the project and everything is piled on top of each other by the end. So the elements never really flow together well. I get a sense the same happened with this song, Fist Bump. Instead of designing this song from the ground up, it's like the instrumentals were made in its own little vacuum. The lyrics were written in a void and then combined together. Since it has strange pacing here and there, it makes it feel a little bit uncomfortable. Still, it doesn't bother me that much. Song still has a nice energy to it, and after listening a couple of times, it really flows well in my head. And I'm very happy the lyrics are very cheesy.
Yeah, it's nice after all the hyper self-aware postmodernism that they're willing to go with the flow again and just go for it. A little cheese can make it go down smoother when done right.
Seems to be a lot of concerns that the lyrics are too cheesy or weird. Surprisingly, a lot from the Sonic Adventure 3 group would have thought they'd celebrate anything ending the era of eternal detached sarcasm. But yeah, it got me to think, how super important are lyrics really? I mean, I never really care much about them in songs, in general. A song's more about an energy, a movement. I don't think songs are a good medium to get complicated language or messages through, at least not with pure word choices. It's more about setting a mood or exploring an atmosphere. Well, unless you're rapping or it's a musical or something. Music makes it more abstract, more emotional, more like poetry. I mean, how many songs don't there exist that try to convey something complicated, like a sarcastic message or a twist or something, just for audiences to completely miss the point and celebrate songs for the wrong reasons?
It's sort of hard to explain. Sometimes people catch sarcasm. The bigger the audience, the greater the chance. And it also depends on what they know the creator for. Randy Newman's best known for his songs in Toy Story and Monsters, Inc., but his breakout hit was a sarcastic piece on racism called Short People. Even though it's supposed to be a satire on how we see racism as definitively making someone worthless because of stupid reasons, it's played completely straight, so a lot of people don't realize it, and Newman isn't known for satirical music.
Yeah, unless you already have a clear reputation for being sarcastic, like Weirdo Yankovic, I think the majority of people won't be looking for sarcasm and just take it straight. You have to recognize the jokes too. Newton's I Love LA is a satire on Los Angeles, but most of his jokes require some serious knowledge of Los Angeles, so most of the jokes go straight over my head. And not just sarcasm, any song that has a message slightly off from the general tone, like Michael Jackson's Beat It. I always took that as a straight badass song celebrating cool street life with the rocking music and the cool lyrics. They kick you and they beat you and they tell you it's fair. Yeah, cool, man. And then you actually pay attention to the lyrics and it's, oh, the song is against the violent street life. Swallow your pride. Don't get yourself hurt. Preserve yourself. Don't waste your life on proving yourself to be cool. Just stay home and do your homework and brush your teeth. Guitar solo! Yeah! Oh, rockin'! Dun, 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 dun.
When writing sarcasm in music, if you want absolutely everyone to realize the sarcasm, you literally have to be that Boom episode where they sing, "This is the song you've heard before." Beat the audience over the head with it.
Anyway, so English isn't my first language, it's Dutch. And I remember when my brain was still in the process of deciphering the English language, I had this in-between period where I recognized some words, especially if they had a nice ring to it, some punch to them, and loved those words. Didn't master language enough to be able to put them in the context of real language, real meaning. They were just cool words. I suppose it's comparable with anime fans loving their kawaii and sugoi and such. When certain words get stuck in their heads and they have this bond with those words, even if they can't really truly understand the language yet. So I tend to think that a lot of foreign music bands who use English as lyrics tend to have that kind of approach. Eurobeats music and such, that they use English words because they sound cool, like they're instruments. Just using the words for the beat, the punch to them, more so than straight communication. And that's where you get those cheesy lyrics. Follow the heart to your dreams, my passion burns through the fire of my soul. Means nothing. It just sounds cool.
True, but Fistbump's lyrics were written by a native English speaker.
Alright, just trying to figure out where this type of songwriting comes from. And even when you do know the language, you got those drunken idiot songs a lot. Music to bulge out in the bar when you're drunk. Après-ski music and such. Songs deliberately designed to be just fun to sing, especially when your brain is turned to mush. Drinking songs, pop songs, just a collection of fun words to sing. But anyway, maybe that's the problem, that the cheesy Sonic songs from Sonic R and Sonic Adventure were written by more foreign people and rely more on the "this sounds cool" logic of decision making, where Fist Bump is way more deliberately written to be cheesy and therefore feels wrong. Like the word fist bump, it's too straight, too deliberate to work as cheese, I think.
Sounds like something marketing came up with, to be honest. Adventure at least felt more genuine, but Crush 40 had Johnny singing the lyrics, and probably writing them too. Yet again, a native English speaker.
But Jun Sonoy, I hope that's how you pronounce it, probably affects the decision making with the lyrics too, telling Johnny to make the lyrics more cool or whatever to his taste, and therefore creating this endearing cheese factor.
That's possible.
Special News Bulletin. This afternoon at exactly right now, Sonic critic Luke the Fox had the following statements about Fist Bump and Infinite's theme. It sounds really generic with its lyrics about the power of friendship. It really reminds me of that song parody of Crush 40 songs from that Red Hedgehog video with the screaming death metal music.
When everything seems so bleak and you don't know what to do, you must use the power of friendship in order to get through.
It just didn't feel that catchy to me, nor did it have that feel of war. You know His World from Sonic 06? Despite that game being a bit dodgy, that song had a real feel of epicness and fitted the darker themes of the game. The fist bump song is like, yeah, we're going to have fun with our friends while the world's being destroyed by giant robots. When I listened to Infinite's theme, I was like, wow, this feels dark and gritty. It reminded me of Supporting Me from Sonic Adventure 2, as it had that same feel. It makes you think that this guy might replace Shadow as the ultimate edgelord, and is more edgier than the Edge from U2. Back to you, Roger, and his evil twin.
Anyway, that's enough about Sonic Forces. Now, Sonic songs in general. Where to begin? Of course, Sonic games from the chiptune era have good music with a strong melody, because they come from a time when video game music had to rely on strong melodies to make up for the limited amount of instruments they had to work with. And besides, hearing a catchy soundtrack blaring in a store's demo booth was one of the first things that got you to pay attention to a game back then, right next to the cover and promotional artwork. But even when Sonic games moved on to CD consoles and started to experiment with more musical genres, melodies always kept an important role in the music.
Well, they're Japanese games, and the Japanese always seem more shameless about these things, which I like. We Westerners were always embarrassed, always holding back. Keep it subtle, keep it mature. The audience need to make up their own minds, don't be overdramatic, don't be manipulative. The Japanese, they don't care. They see it as one big event. Pound the audience into submission with the music. It's glorious! And of course, notice as soon as the Western took control over the Sonic games with Sonic Boom, powerful music immediately went out of the window.
Poor Rise of Lyric, reducing itself to the same jungle drums as every modern AAA Explorer action movie. The 3DS ones fared a little bit better. That being said, there are tons of Western game composers who love themselves some good strong melodies too, such as Tommy Tallarico's work on Earthworm Jim for the retro age, and Toby Fox's work on Undertale is a more recent example. But yeah, most game developers will choose music that's more subtle and retained. When it comes to Western Sonic music, at least Spinball and Sadam had some good tracks.
Whoa, let me backtrack and clarify myself a bit. I'm talking about modern video game music then. As you mentioned before, in ancient times, music was a vital aspect in getting people to pay attention to your games, and so strong melodies were important all over the map. It's when CD quality music could be implanted that the difference in music intensity started to happen. When intense graphics could capture people's imagination more so than just the music. So not quite in the PlayStation 1 Sega Saturn days yet, it was still a transition period, but especially from the PlayStation 2 time on did I notice a decrease in interest in video game music, unless it's from excited crazy Japanese developers or in deliberate callbacks to the past. Well, and obviously music games like Guitar Hero are an exception. I'm probably digging my own grave here. Back to Sonic! I can't really tell what makes Sonic music so special on a technical level. Although I think it has largely to do that it exists in this weird limbo in-between world between real pop music and traditional video game music, and managed to get the benefits of both. Even in the classic days, the music seemed extremely pop-orientated. I'm pretty sure this Bridge Zone theme track was later used in a Janet Jackson song. And of course, can't forget all the Michael Jackson involvement rumors. Even if it's untrue, the composer must have definitely taken some inspiration from him.
Michael Jackson defined 16-bit era Sega, even outside of Sonic. He was a huge cornerstone in the Genesis's early marketing push. If you watch early news stories on the Sega Genesis, you see a huge focus put on how much developers focused on capturing the spirit of the times, taking direct input from Michael Jackson on the Moonwalker licensed game, programming in his dance moves, and splicing game footage into his music videos to sell how accurate it was to them.
Kinda reminds me of Doom taking influence from popular metal songs. Mega Man X too, I think.
The X-Team loved metal so much that they named the Mavericks after Guns N' Roses members in X5.
And Mega Man is just as well known for its good music as Sonic is. Right, so you get the combined strength of pop music, and capturing the mind and being extremely relatable, and combining it with chiptune music, which, because of its simple instruments, have to rely strongly on melody, and putting a strong emphasis on that, and you got gold. Honestly, I'm not much of a pop music fan, generally speaking, mostly because they all tend to sound the same if you listen to it for too long. They always follow one general trend, I can't listen to a full music album from one band for too long. After one or two songs, all the music tracks just bleed into each other, and it just becomes background noise. Even with my favorite bands. I guess this is why I like stuff like Weirdo Yankovic, at least with him jumping from style parody to style parody, it switched up the music energy to keep it focused. And it's this stuff that tends to make the best Sonic soundtracks for me, the ones that mix up the music the most. Either with genres, the fan-made Sonic before and after the sequel are great. The music really goes everywhere, from upbeat chirpy chiptunes, this majestic spiritual track, funky guitars, full orchestra assault, it's everywhere. And of course, from the official Sonic games, there's stuff like Sonic Adventure throwing all kinds of genres together.
Listening to those tracks makes his Sonic 06 theme very disappointing. Just this generic danger music, with very little personality to it. The only thing I like about it is the pounding drums in the background, like a bumbling fat march. That's the only nice touch. Everything else is super generic and doesn't fit Eggman at all.
Well, to Sonic 06 quote-unquote defense, that theme is a good representation of how Eggman was used in that game. He was boring and generic there. So, good theme regarding the context, I suppose. And go figure, he has a fat march in a game where he isn't fat at all.
But it does make it baffling why later games, such as Sonic Colors, continue to use this theme for Eggman. If that track was already too dry and serious even for the dark, edgy Sonic games, then it's even more spectacularly out of place in the clownish Sonic Colors.
Well, they do make his theme sound more circusy in that game.
Either way, it's nice that there's some themes even crossing over in other games. It's a bit of a shame there's so few constant left motifs that are carried over from game to game. Would be cool if Sonic had his own constant theme song. I guess Green Hill Zone is his big theme music now.
Well, You Can't Do Anything, Toot Toot Sonic Warrior is the closest we get to a theme to Sonic that's reused in other games, I suppose. Although it only reappears in the Game Gear games that are a bit sidelined. Well, and themes are returning a lot more in recent games, although I don't really count Sonic Generations or LEGO Dimensions in that regard, since they're deliberately reusing old material in a meta way. In a real reusing it in a fully standalone build-up from the ground kind of way, well, Sonic Adventure 1 was kind of ballsy in remixing Sonic 3D Blast tracks a lot, with Green Grove reused in the sky level and Panic Puppet in the theme park stage. The context is even different. Makes me wonder if Sonic Team was concerned nobody would hear the Sega Genesis versions of the music and only the Sega Saturn tracks would go down in history. Of course, in the real world the opposite happened, but anyway. It makes me wonder if this kind of thing will ever happen again, Sonic Team repurposing an old song again, as a standalone song, not in a meta-specific reference kind of way. Maybe they only could do that in the olden age, the olden days before the internet, before people could get outraged over Sonic Triple Trouble reusing a Sonic Chaos track and such. Because people didn't remember songs from obscure games, but now there's always going to be an army of ultra fans that will immediately uncover your horrible secrets if you repurpose an older song, especially without purpose. But yeah, that's reusing songs the development team might have had feared were wasted and would never be heard by an audience, so were given a second life. As for full-on motives and recurring themes, well, now I think about it, Tails' theme from Adventure 1 actually shows up a lot, in Black Knight and in Lost World. Kinda weird since Tails' story arc from Adventure has been largely outgrown in the modern games, so the theme isn't all that relevant to Tails anymore. If anything, the cutesy "I Wanna Fly High" song is almost ironic with modern Tails. Less, I'm an adorable little kid dreaming of a better future, and more, I'm a smug bitch who's better than everyone else.
If this was a musical, it'd be a nice dark reprise of his theme.
Oh, that kinda reminds me of this hidden joke in Disney's animated Beauty and the Beast soundtrack. It doesn't happen in the live-action version, I was looking for it, probably too slapsticky. But anyway, so you have that big musical number, Be My Guest, where the furniture is welcoming Belle as a guest to the castle and serving her dinner.
Be our guest, be our guest, be our guest.
Then by the end of the movie, the villagers are attacking the castle and the furniture start attacking them. Now if you listen carefully to the background music, you'll notice it's the Be My Guest theme, except now as a hectic battle song. Gotta love that hidden irony. Well, not really irony, but, you know, fun little sarcasm.
The Sonic franchise doesn't use left motifs very often, but when it uses them masterfully. Gamma's theme and Unbound from Sonic Adventure represent some of the best wordless storytelling I've ever heard. For the 1.5 of you that haven't played Sonic Adventure, skip to this time to avoid spoilers.
Spoiler warning on this show. It's probably better if I do a reverse spoiler warning and say you better know everything about the series before following these discussion videos. But, whatever.
When first listening to it, Gamma's basic theme seems robotic, dead serious, and techy, which works well for the character. But there's a very unconventional instrument handling the melody. A piano. Something organic. When you get to about 1 minute and 12 seconds, the instrument changes to a synthesizer, and the melody played is particularly memorable because of that change. It's more free-flowing and less constrained than the rest. Then suddenly the piano comes banging back in, cutting it off abruptly. It literally represents his struggle with his power source's freedom musically. This struggle is the basis for Gamma's entire storyline, as he frees other birds by destroying the robots that house them, and it climaxes with him allowing himself to be destroyed so the bird inside him can be freed. And that's when you hear Unbound, end of E102. The arrangement is nothing but organic instruments, and that once robotic chorus is now completely organic, with horns, piano, and bass, representing him finally breaking free of the robotic confines. The entire song is just that chorus, too. That is storytelling through composition.
Kind of funny how the song without lyrics tells a more complete story than the rest. Anyway, I don't want to stick with the Sonic Avengers too long. I get a lot of complaints I praise those games too much. And, well, might as well throw in a complaint about the music in these games before we leave them as well. Much as I like everyone's big epic theme songs, I do kind of wish they had a more subtle downplayed rearrangement of them for in the cutscenes. It's a little clunky to constantly hear their full-blown theme songs rock out every time they show up in cutscenes. It's a little much.
Not to mention the obvious consequence of that in Adventure 2 where you could barely hear the dialogue over the loud music.
It's the rare bit where Sonic 06 improved on the Avengers. That one did have more downplayed versions of the character tracks worked into the score, particularly his world, even as a sweeping orchestral bit. But that's the technical applications of the songs, not the songs themselves. Leaving the Avengers,
Heroes was a huge step back because it went back to the classic style of making music only for the stage. But, of course, that was intentional. It was a callback to the past, and the levels were varied enough that the music kept changing pace and tone. Shadow was a disaster, because the only music style is actually the remains of his style in SA2. But since he's the only major character now, only that style is present. And most levels have the same kind of atmosphere outside of the circus and internet level.
Strange, because Sonic 06 did have a lot of different environments, tones, and cinematic qualities, yet had the same problem where very few songs are memorable outside, of course, the specific end-credit character songs that are always on their own special level of quality. But listening to the level tracks separately, they do have nice instruments and a nice energy to them. I'm actually surprised why the tracks never impressed me.
Sonic 06 was operating less on the hook 'em with a theme, go crazy with the rest film logic, instead opting mostly for the same kind of filler score as Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, to add onto the pile of other connections those two games have. Modern cinematic scores have very few leitmotifs and themes, but just create a general mood. Many composers nowadays are more concerned with hitting all the marks of what people expect a song to sound like for the environment, instead of half doing that and half working in character instruments, themes, motivations, emotions, all that. So, a scene in a jungle has tons of jungle instruments going on, but no melody to power them.
Real shame. I freaking love leitmotifs and themes. Composers can do all kinds of cool things with them. Like, you know the Addams Family theme song, right? From the TV show?
They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together ooky, the Addams Family.
And then there were the movies that had their own theme song going on, more with the waltz. So then in the second movie there's this hectic tango going on, and the soundtrack is great. It's like a tango duel battle between those two themes. First you hear general random tango music, but then the TV show theme starts. Then it switches to the movie theme. Then morphs back to the TV show theme. Swings back to the movie theme, until by the end, the whole song completely collapses. It's great!
Those kind of dueling banjos moments where the music itself is one with the action on screen are always fun. Back to Sonic. The Poppy Suite reboots in 2010 and later are attempting to create more of a timepiece experience, where you can clearly tell all of the music's by the same artist, for the same game. More like the Nintendo Saturday morning TV show kind of experience. So it's more on the quality of classic games again with strong melodies, but no longer with the pop music or cinematic qualities from the classic and adventure games, which is a bit of a shame. Though it is fitting for what they're doing with the newer games, I suppose. The music is again only referring specifically to the levels and designed to be more Mario-like, so more based on the rhythm of the player.
You mean Colors and Lost World, I suppose. Of course, Generations is a bit messy because it's meta remix nature, and Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric is entirely cinematic in nature.
That makes it all the more interesting to see what the new games will do with the music we haven't heard yet. We've already seen some really cool preview songs from Forces, but who knows what the full soundtrack will be like for it.
Or Sonic Mania for that matter. I have been a fan of T-Lobe's music way before he was announced to be working for Mania.
Liked him before it was cool, eh? Hipster.
You bet! And I love the variation in instruments he uses in his remixes. Again, really reminds me of After the Sequel soundtrack quite a bit. Making some songs tropical sounding, some trance beats, some rockish. Hope there's a ton of variations in tone and energy in the Mania soundtrack. Hard-Boiled Heavy is a great one.
Your love and focus on T-Lopes as a famous Sonic personality reminds me of something important I'd like to bring up. A concern I have with the Sonic franchise and a good deal of postmodern media. The concept of death of an artist. That is, how much the actual person behind the art should be part of experiencing their art. Obviously, people need to get some credit for their work on whatever they create, but the advent of internet celebrities selling products and content primarily with their personalities has taken it much further than ever before. I mean, you have noticed the difference in Sonic's marketing approach, right? It used to be about the games and how cool they are, with the fanbase and creators gravitating towards the game. But now it's the other way around. The series is about the fanbase and its creators, with the games floating around it. Quite possibly the greatest advent in Sonic's marketing has been the outstanding reach of its Twitter account. But how? Was it the best place to find out new Sonic info? Carefully selected fan art and contests to boost community interactivity and hype for the new games? Nope. It's all about Aaron Weber and his wacky jokes, making the Game Grumps eat cupcakes, and the silly fan base being up to their old tricks. Big the cat, guys! Watch out for Cold Steel! Ow, the edge! But wait. Fan characters and edginess are the main selling points of the new Sonic game it has to promote, and you've taught everyone to cringe at them on sight. Good luck, Mr. Weber! This extends even further yet. Even the games themselves have become chock full of references, memes, and fourth wall teasing, reacting to the fanbase's memories instead of leading them forward to make new ones. If you make fun of a trope, you don't have to innovate it! Thus, Sonic's games now often turn into a stand-up act about how dumb Sonic's games are. So far, the music hasn't been affected by this too much, thankfully, although considering how meta the last few games have been, modern Sonic game soundtracks have mostly been remakes of the past more than their own soundtrack. And not really in a left motif kind of way, where the returning songs reintroduce cinematic qualities of the characters and locations, but more just meaningless references to the past. Like how you mentioned Tails' theme having become almost ironic in nature by now, considering how much he's changed as a character.
Well, to the game's defense, ignoring Generations, they mostly got their own sounds. Heck, Green Hill Zone is actually allowed to have a brand new theme in Forces. Not a good theme, but hey, I appreciate the break of hearing the damn Green Hill Zone theme all the time, and at least the remixes of the tracks sound decent. But yeah, I am getting tired of the meta aspect of the series, and I have to say, I did have a chuckle when the Sonic Mania game manual spends more time celebrating the staff, and even allowing for signatures, more than mentioning anything about gameplay. I don't remember retro game manuals making a big deal out of their Rockstar developers, but whatever. Still, what's your point?
Well, let's just say I'm hoping that people like T-Lopes, Douglas Robb, and all the fresh faces in Sonic music being included won't become more important to the fanbase than the quality and impact of the work they create. And many of Sonic's future soundtracks will be designed specifically for the new material again, like what we've seen out of Forces thus far.
Yeah, the new epic character themes we got so far seem to suggest that's happening for Forces at least, if not Sonic's future in general.
And hey, when even Green Hill Zone has a new song written for it, maybe, just maybe, Forces will have a truly unique score.
Yeah, hooray for originality and not reusing songs. Although I do hope they reuse songs because I love leitmotifs and weird remixes. But I do hope they won't. So hooray, we talked about music for half an hour and I have no idea what our conclusions are. But hey, I talked about music, well a lot of people want it, so there. Now only talking about the Archie comics left, especially now with the latest news. And I fulfilled the most requested topics I get. Whew, so much reading material.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, so, let us know in the comments what your favorite Sonic tracks are. I'm a self-obsessed asshole, so I don't really care about it, but I heard somewhere that asking audiences stupid interaction questions gives you more views or something. I don't know.
How honest. Oh, speaking of soulless marketing, you've got a nice subscriber base to exploit there. Howdy, Roger fans! If you like music, Undertale, or following orders, go visit my channel. I'm creating a multitude of musical content. Swing covers, original songs, game music, and Undersong, an Undertale musical with over 40 original numbers, one of which you might have heard in the credits of Roger's Undertale Day. Be sure to comment, subscribe, and, if you really like what you hear, consider pledging to my Patreon. Here's some links to that stuff. What else? Team Chaotix BR asked us to show for him. He creates Portuguese fan dubs of Rogers and Minutes cartoons, but also has a lot of original material. Also, Sonic Paradox is working hard. Casino Calamity's not dead, and Sega Shorts is still going. But we need more animators for it, so make sure you go to our website and...
Okay, bye.
And that was We Can by Ted Poley and Tony Harnless. Now here's Luke the Fox with his favourite Sonic Songs report. Luke? Thanks, me. Well, Luke, I sure have a few beauties of songs compiled in my personal all-times best Sonic songs list. Up first is the soundtracks from Sonic CD, US version, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I like the early 90s rock and metal feel of the music. It's what made me like the music of Earthworm Jim, because it made me think that kind of music would fit in a Sonic game with its 90s synth electronic sounding rock music. Then number 1, the Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack. It had a rock and energetic feel to it with its songs and music. When you were Tails and had to bust Sonic out of jail, the level music made Tails look like a robot slaying badass. And it gave us one of the best themes for Dr. Eggman, which in time was replaced by a more sinister theme. But it kind of made me wish they would go back to that I Am the Eggman theme. Maybe a sinister instrumental theme that combines the feel of both. Excellent choices, Luke. I fully agree with me. Now back to two morons garbling nonsense.